In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go over actually some of the final assemblies of your quadcopter. So what you'll need is our what we completed last time. You're going to need this top board. So that'll eventually sit up there like that. You're going to need the mounting plate for your APM. Your APM. For the silicone bushings that should have came with your APM, that'll connect it to its mounting plate. Your GPS module, your stand for your GPS module, your various wires that would have came with APM, the hardware for securing it, your zip ties, double-sided sticky tape for the GPS module, the mounting base for the GPS stand. There's a little nut that goes along with it. And what I've done is I've actually have a prop here so that I can put just the one prop on, so I can kind of get an idea of what my clearance is going to be. That way I don't inadvertently put something where a prop might hit it. So what I'll do is go ahead and throw that on there right now. So it's going to be set on there. Doesn't matter which one. But now I can see, just give me a little comfort that I know whatever I put on here is not going to be caught with one of the props. So this top board, we're going to set this off to the side because we're going to get stuff mounted up on it first. Actually, let's go ahead and leave that up here. First what you want to do is kind of lay out how you're going to tackle this monster. And in addition, I'll actually be putting on a telemetry radio also. So there's a lot of stuff you're going to mount on here, and you kind of want to see how it's going to play out. How do you assemble your APM to its base plate? So take your base plate, you got these little silicone bushings, they'll go in each one of these holes, and then they will go in each one of these holes. So just a matter of working them in there. It can be a little difficult. Just kind of scrunch them up. You don't want to pull them too hard in case you tear them. So you're going to kind of more push them through. Once you get the majority of the way through, you can tug on this side. You just got to kind of keep working at it. Like I said, you don't want to pull too hard because you could tear them, and then you'd have to get some more. So once they're on there, kind of look like that. I'm not going anywhere. So we'll go ahead and do the other three. Alright, once you get all those in there, this is what you'll have. So, and then this piece here, I'll zip tie through here down to that top board. But that effectively isolates your APM from any vibrations and allows it to perform its best. Next we're going to do, we have a little GPS stand here. So we have this little GPS stand. There's a little set screw in the side of here. At first I didn't think they'd provide me with the set screw. I found it in the bottom of the box, so it was in there. If it doesn't come with a set screw, it still fits really tight without it. So you could just apply a little bit of glue if you wanted to hold that in there. But since I have the set screw, I'll go ahead and use it. Make sure it's snug down. And then we'll take our 3M sticky tape and get our GPS mounted. I don't need that centerpiece, it's not going to matter much. So lay that flat, try to get this centered as best as possible. And there we go. I wish they would have made this the same size as the bottom of the GPS, but I guess that's a little too asking for a little too much. Next, do the same thing to your GPS. Center as best as possible. And there you go. And that's the 3M adhesive. that's not going anywhere. Once that's on there, that's on there. So now we got that assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece off of here. So there's a set screw in the top, not in the bottom. I mentioned earlier that this was not a swivel joint. I was mistaken. Go ahead and loosen this. See, there's a collar in there, and it will actually swivel back and forth, so that's nice. So we're going to take our top plate. I know it's going to mount on one of these 4 holes. It really doesn't matter which one. So I can go ahead and go like that. Put that through there. And it should have a little nut that came with it. It's got a nylon washer in it, so there's no Loctite required. Go ahead and snug that down. I always struggle finding the right size wrench. A pair of pliers will work just fine. And then you can use your fingers on the back side. This is big enough, you can turn it by hand. And just snug that down. And so you do like I did. You'll get this collar tightened on here too tight. That's okay. Just use our pliers and break that loose. All right. So I've already gone through a warm game this a little bit. Initially, I was going to mount my APM on the top plate. But fighting the battery, getting it in and out from in between these channels is just not going to be realistic. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I completely redisassembled it, and we're going to mount our APM in the center of this base plate here. I want to stay away from the edges, that way if I add a gimbal, I can do that later. So we'll put the APM here. I'm going to mount my receiver in the back. Then my telemetry radio will squeeze it in wherever I can get it. It'll probably be attached to the top plate just because that'll be easy. So on your APM, first thing you want to look for is where it says forward, and that needs to be forward of the craft. I'm going to make my white arms forward. A little bit about this, so before you mount it up, make sure you understand how you're going to set it up to operate with your receiver. If you're going to use a receiver such as this, a FreeSky X8R, it has an Sbus on it, which is nice. That means I can send all channels over just one wire. However, this does not accept an Sbus. There's a YouTube video online that goes through and explains you how to update the firmware on one of the chips on the board in order to be able to process the Sbus. Pretty straightforward, took me about 10 minutes to do. And it is up and running. I only need one wire to send all 8 channels to the APM, so that's nice. Another thing is, if you have an external GPS or compass in your GPS, you can go ahead and use the port on here. A lot of people plug into this port. I found that once I remove the jumper to disable the internal compass on the board, I was able to plug right into this port, and actually if you look on the board, it is described with external mag. So I didn't even realize online people were plugging in over here initially, and doing some jumper stuff in the back of the board. I just plugged in there, undid the jumper, and it works wonderfully. What else? Telemetry port, and then here's your ESCs. If you're going to power everything via your ESCs, go ahead and leave jumper 1 in place. If you're going to use an external BEC or UBEC, you can take jumper 1 off, and the ESCs will not power the rest of the board. I was powering off of just one ESC, and I will tell you, even at 2 amps, those ESCs were starting to get a little warm trying to run this, the receiver, and the telemetry radio. However, for next reviews on, you can parallel your the buck or the UBECs, the BECs on your ESCs together, Some people say don't do it, other people say you can. I'm going to be that guy. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. One was getting warm, and then since these particular ESCs aren't very good ones, they don't have an external oscillator in them, so as they got warmer, their timing got out of sync with one another, so initial startup was kind of choppy. Once you got some throttle into it though, it really wasn't bothering at all. It was just that initial startup. But by splitting the load between them all, should keep any single one from getting too warm and help keep those more in sync with one another. So first off, and get some zip ties ready, because we're going to just zip tie through the bottom of here and then through the center of your board there. So pretty straightforward. I'm going to use two of them, one going each direction. That should give me a stable enough mount. Spin that a little bit. Get one going that way. So kind of do a cross pattern and be good. So this does fit between these legs. So we've got forward there. White leg's going to be forward for me. So if you try to go down through here, you're just not going to get it. Turn her a little bit. And then you can work it down in there. And then once it's in there, just go ahead and turn her. And then we have to fish our zip ties through. Alright, in order to get the zip ties in here, I had to lift up, undo this one side of the APM here. That's just because it was fighting me so bad. And these zip ties, the heads will not fit through the slot, so I had to secure it up underneath here. So it's one of those things I can either fight it now with zip ties or fight it later with double-sided sticky tape. Pick your poison. Mine happens to be zip ties. With fur tape, I'm sure it will perform just fine. Alright, so making motor connections, make sure you look online and you educate yourself on which order your motors need to be connected in. It's not a huge issue if you don't connect them right. You can always tear it apart and reconnect them. You can also change some of the programming on the APM. It's all open source, so you can get in there and change it around if you want. But sometimes it's just easier not to fight it. So, as you look at your quadcopter, I'm going to make the front facing away from me. This is motor A. It should be set up to rotate counterclockwise. And it plugs into output 1 on the APM board. So, drop this through here. I can go up underneath there and back around, just use up some of the cabling. So there we go. Your signal wire is always on the inside on this board, with the ground on the outside. So these, the white wire is my signal wire. Plug that in there like so. Alright, then motor 2 is going to be the exact opposite one. So 1, then 2. This one will also spin counterclockwise. Make sure white wire is going in. Like I said before, it's up to you if you want to leave the power wire hooked up or not. I've read both ways. Some people say yay, some people say nay. I'm saying go for it. So we got 1, 2, and then this will be motor 3. It'll spin clockwise. And then last but not least, this motor 4 also spinning clockwise. Alright, so we got all 4 of our motor connections. Now I'm going to spin this around and make my receiver connections. Alright, so I'm going to mount my receiver. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to put it on the top plate, but just give it a little bit of thought of how you want to run your wires. It'll just save you some headaches. I've already mounted my GPS pull. Just one little nut through one of the holes in the board, and then this, when it's loosened, actually gives a swivel joint there so that we can lay the antenna flat when we're stowing the quadcopter. So my top plate will eventually be sitting on here like so. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to end up mounting my receiver out here on this leg, and then the antennas, they're going to be mounted over on the side here, zip tied down, one to the base plate, one to the top plate. I have 2 antennas, and that's just because this particular receiver will broadcast back some telemetry. So I'm going to fish this through this top plate first. Fish this through the bottom plate, and since I am using Sbus, I only have to plug into 1, so lucky me. There's no 1-wire connection, or I guess technically a 3-wire connection, but 1 cable connection. And now I can send, well, the receiver will do up to 16 channels. The APM reads at least 8 that I know of. Alright, so the next step, also want to make my GPS connections. Once again, give some thought how you want to run them. And I think since we already got cables going down through this hole here, we'll double down on it. Alright, so and then the last connection I need to make to my APM, that's all I'm using right now, would be my telemetry radio. In the future, I might add a battery monitor, but I'm just going to run a timer on my transmitter, so I know how long I've been in there, and that'll let me know when I need to come in for landing. Word of advice on these little telemetry radios: never run them without the antenna attached, otherwise you risk burning them out. So we got that up there like that. My battery will be running this direction through here. So my telemetry radio, alright, so I can mount my telemetry right here. So some more fishing. So just give some thought on how you want to round all your wires and what the final product will look like. Needs to be functional for you, and also you want it to look nice. So made all our connections. So there we go. So now we'll do, kind of start buttoning this up. I'm going to go ahead and with the remaining hardware, go ahead and put the screws in the top here. Make sure you use a little bit of Loctite. And they don't need to be extremely tight, but they do need to be snug. Alright, you notice I've been playing around with my one light. It's got a bunch of electrical tape on it. I was actually out playing around with this earlier today. I had a mishap. So, just be careful. I came down, lost control. It's rather windy out there. That leg hit in the mud, stuck, and snapped off. So, alright, so our top plate's on there securely. Our battery, this is only 2200 milliamp, will be much bigger than that. But by putting it up there on top, I've got more than enough room to mount my batteries as I will. Now that I look at my battery connection, it's right in the way of my GPS module, so we're going to go ahead and move that GPS module over to here and just be done with that. So, alright, move the GPS over here, battery going here like this. What I'll end up doing most likely is routing the battery cables under the leg here and over to here like so. That way I don't have a bunch of flopping battery cables. I don't have to worry about them getting stuck up in my props. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and mount up now is looking at my receiver. Like I said before, I've got an Sbus receiver, so I can use a single wire, plug it in like so, and that's the only connection to the receiver I need to make. Makes for a nice clean connection. We're going to go ahead and mount that here like that. So my zip ties are a little short, so I have to use 2 of them. That's okay. Alright, so there's my receiver. You just find out there like that. Couple more zip ties. We'll do antennas. I'm going to put one, well, the battery's going to be there. So we'll mount one antenna over here like so. Oh, one of them's going to definitely go down here. Don't want to mount to the leg since I already broke off a leg. I don't want a leg to rip off my antennas. So there's one. The reason I don't mount it to this arm is because the ESC's out here. The ESC's producing AC current at a fairly high frequency, so I just don't want any interference from those bothering my antennas. Now, I really don't like the idea of mounting this right here because that GPS post is right next to it. But I'm sure it'll be just fine. Shouldn't create that much interference. Although, I guess in theory it could create a dead zone if I happen to be positioned just perfectly between that GPS antenna and myself. There's my antennas. Like I said, I try to keep the antennas themselves away from getting the main power runs and the ESCs just because they create a lot of interference. I think that should work out just fine for me there. So the next thing is we're going to do up our telemetry radio here. Pretty straightforward. You know, we're not going to mount that right there because as I look at this, so I get this mounted up, so I'm not going to put that right there because if that antenna was to fall over during flight, there's some possibility it could, it's going to fall over right into one of my props, which would bring the whole experience to a very uneventful or eventful end, if you will. So I'm going to look at this. So I actually think I kind of like the way that looks right there. Alright, so sometimes finding that perfect mounting solution can be problematic, but you just keep moving stuff around and eventually you'll find something that you can live with and hopefully like. Still not 100% pleased with the 3DR radio, where I got it mounted. Well, I just haven't found a good spot to put it. Like I said, one of my fears is the antenna falling over and getting caught up in one of the props. They say it probably wouldn't happen. About that time is when it would happen to me. So we got her facing down for right now. I guess technically it might be able to swing that way up into a prop. Let's see. Nope, it will clear the prop no matter where it swings. I guess it was out here and swung. It would. But I think I like it better like that anyways. After all, we'll be receiving from the bottom of the quadcopter anyways. Oh, excuse me. So I'll probably get better reception with it facing down like that. So the only thing that's really left to do is go ahead and start zip tying the rest of these wires up. I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to take it out for a test flight. Make sure everything works, I got good reception. But as you can see, it's starting to come together. Let's see if I got a battery strap here. So push your battery strap up through. Battery sits right there. I'll actually end up putting a piece of Velcro down there. I'll span that because you don't want that battery sliding around. These fiberglass plates are pretty slippery. So GPS goes forward. Props are pretty self-explanatory. Like I said before, this is counterclockwise, counterclockwise. So if you look at your props, like this one just says 1045. And then this one, sometimes words can be hard. This one says 1045R. So R would be going to the right. So as we look at that, this will go on here like this. And as you can see, if it was spinning around, as this moves, this would be forcing air downwards, so we know we got the right prop on that particular side there. This will go on this side. You can put the orange in the back if you like, or black on the back, or the front, doesn't matter. This is R, this one goes here, and then this one goes here. Alright, I'm going to do a voiceover in this part of the video. Initially I was telling you you don't have to put the props extremely tight. Turns out, make sure you snug them down pretty good. I lost a prop mid-flight. At about 30 feet, broke one of the arms on the copter and some other damage. The issue is the counter-rotating props will have a tendency to loosen, which happened to me. One of the counter-rotating props came loose mid-flight. So what you want to do is make sure you get those things good and snug down, and use some Loctite on them. Don't get overzealous with the Loctite because it can damage the plastics of the prop, and you do not want it to get down inside the motors. So apply enough to be effective, but you don't want to be dripping off the motor shaft either. And then just make sure you check your props for each flight. The issue with the nuts that they supply is they don't have any lock washers or locking mechanism on whatsoever, so they can't come loose. But don't make sure you don't over tighten them, because my main concern was actually cracking the hub on the props, which would cause them to disintegrate mid-flight and would have the same end result as losing a prop. So use your best judgment, make sure they're tight, and check them before each flight. My solution I've incorporated so far that's helped a little bit is using nuts with lock washers in them. However, the shafts are so short, those don't fully engage either, so I've also used Loctite and making sure they're snug before each flight. As long as you do that, you should not have any issues. So a few things I've noticed that as I try to program my receiver. Fry sky, well, initially when you, at least when I programmed it, I just put throttle in channel 1 and right on down through. Didn't even really think about that. It's talking with the program, trying to get all set up correctly. I was doing all sorts of weird things. Went back through and got her programmed up correctly. Let me open up my model here. So, channel 1 is going to be your ailerons. So for your remote, your ailerons would be your roll. So how you're going to make the aircraft roll. So that would be your right joystick, left and right. Next one's your elevator, so that's also your right joystick, up and down. The last one, the third one is your throttle, so that'd be your left joystick, up and down, and then channel 4 will be your rudder, so that'll make the aircraft rotate around center axis. And then A&P uses channel 5 to set the different various flight modes. So if you're like me using the Tyrannus, that's pretty easy. It sets up some logical switches. You got to hit the right range. Each one of those switches to activate the flight modes. But there's a tutorial on how to do that. This is the aircraft. Once you get it all set up, verify that it does indeed fly, and it can actually hover. You're going to want to go into the auto trim mode, which, so when you arm it, after it arms, continue to hold the left joystick down to the right for 20 seconds. You'll see that the blue LED will engage on the quadcopter. That's in auto trim mode. You're going to want to pick up a hover for about 45 seconds, keeping it as level as possible. And then you'll notice the LEDs will go back to just the arm state, and the aircraft will actually start flying a lot better. At that point in time, the trims have been set, so it's figured out the balance of the aircraft, and it'll just fly much more stable after that. Other than that, that's the build. It's put together. I may or may not do another video on getting her all programmed, but there's plenty of tutorials out there on how to do that. So, any comments, please leave them, and happy flying.